The border of Jordan is roughly 35 kilometers from home. That's closer than the finish line of a marathon run, but I guess at the end of that marathon lies a whole new country. We spent most of our time at our couchsurfer's place in Amman doing day trips. We also went to Petra and to Wadi Rum. Hiking in Wadi Mujib was one of my highlights, but there was so much water that I couldn't take my camera. So, here are the girls instead. Petra was so much bigger than I expected it to be. Some of the trails are more than 10 kilometers long, and all of it is so old. It's the first time I really felt like I could imagine the entirety of an old city. It was just aged, carved stone for miles. Generally, Jordan feels like a country built around its own gravity and age. Everywhere you go, there's history to see. It's almost humiliating to see crafts that are older than my brain can truly fathom, and yet the people back then were so much better at making it than I could ever be. And I have the internet. Something's wrong. Some Jordanians haven't even seen Petra yet, even though they have to pay an entrance fee of €1, and we paid 50. But I guess the noteworthiness of something is defined by how common it is. So it makes me wonder, what do I take for granted? Are there things I don't acknowledge enough? Jordan is considered to be one of the top 10 most water-scarce countries in the world. The average salary of a middle-class worker is roughly €500, even though the food prices are the same or maybe even more. In relation, this makes Amman one of the most expensive cities in the world. To be honest, I was kind of expecting a prettier city. There's no real public transportation, there are not really beautiful streets to walk around, and you can only take taxis if you don't have a car. In Europe, it's really weird to live at your parents later than maybe the age of 23. But in Jordan, it's normal to live at your parents' house until you get married, which sometimes can take years because a young couple couldn't afford to live in an apartment alone. They would have to save for it for years. That would be unthinkable for us. Our host jokingly called us spoiled, but I guess in some sense we really are. Oh, and the TV was running all the time. We asked him, so when do you turn on the TV? And he was so disturbed by that question. What do you mean, when do I turn it on? It's like turning on the lights. You wake up and you turn on the TV. Weirdo. So I guess the big difference I noticed was the value of the individual. In Germany, we're doing very well financially. I mean, the Kindergeld we get until we're 25 only for existing is about one-third of an average salary in Jordan. That's how messed up the difference is. We have the possibility to focus more on ourselves, so we do. It would be so strange not to move out fairly soon after graduating, because it would mean that the person hasn't developed his own life yet. In Jordan, it would be strange to move out, meaning something is probably wrong in the family atmosphere. The value lies on the community of the entire family, not on the individuals of the family. It's important where you come from, what tribe you belong to. In Germany, it's important who you are and what you want to become. I appreciate the individualism I take from my culture, but it can turn sour very quickly. When does the value of the individual turn into the egoistic value of myself before others? And in movies and in general, we're talking more and more about loneliness. And how far is our loneliness in the fast world around us formed by our individualism? When I asked our host what really bothered him about Jordan, he said the superficiality. People often have two living rooms, one for the guests and one for themselves. It is normal to buy expensive things for the guest living room and make it look very nice, while the quality of the rest of the house is obviously different and lower. Arabic cultures are not good at direct communication. Maybe in an individualistic world, is there more courage for boldness? And how close is the connection between secularism and individualism? How strongly are our divorce rates influenced by an overly excessive value of the individual? Jordan is very different. There are a lot of possibilities to take a step back and wonder, are the foundations of my worldview something I decided on? Do I want to think the way I think? Are there things I should try and change while I have the possibility? And the more our worlds are growing together, the more important it becomes to try and learn from each other. I'm glad to go home soon. I'm glad that my home is in Europe. Honestly, I'm glad that I don't live in Jordan. But I'm so glad that there are some other cultures that are so fundamentally different from ours. It makes us think and reevaluate.